All right. We're back with week 5 Explore Pauper. So last 2 weeks I played janky decks. I was going to play them again, but I have to say I've been playing my green-white proliferate deck that I played in week 1, and I'm messing around with it. I've been having a lot of fun with it. So we go back to it since I only got one weekend. We had some close matches. Let's see how it'll do. I'll play, I guess, what I feel is a little bit better deck than the other two that I was playing. It's a little less gimmicky. I feel like playing aggressive. I kind of got to go quick today, and I don't really, just not feeling on the other two. I'll maybe play one of the other two in the last week. Um, but I think I need to give proliferate some reps. And of course, because I went against what I said, I'm starting off with a pretty crappy draw. So we're going to have to mulligan. Um, this is actually keepable. So we'll keep this. And we'll put the thief back. So we'll play this here because what we're going to want to do is we'll just send a really big signal to my opponent that I've got. I mean, if they've seen this deck, they know that I've got probably Vorak or something that can really get going quick. Ooh, nice. We'll discard that. Got another land. So what we'll do on this turn, if they don't kill it off, we're going to recommission, proliferate, attack for 4, and then we've got 9 power on the board. So let's do that. Recommission. Bring it back. So they've got a chance to... Oh, they got me with the counterspell. So they're playing poison. Oh boy. Okay. I mean, I guess it's better than them having something else. I wonder if it's creatureless poison. Now, hopefully they play something else and we get our second commission in. That would be nice. Nope. Bummer. So let's do they have another counter spell? Probably, but we can't really keep messing around with it. If they got another counter spell, they got another counter spell. If they got an exile, each opponent sacrifices a planeswalker and gets a poison counter. Okay, that's fine. It's still a 5/5. We'll decline. Sure. Okay, so now we just need to stay alive for a little bit. So, let's put this here because we're going to need to try and do this in as few turns as possible. So this puts it on a 3-turn clock. Okay. All right. This is where we really miss the trample that we get out of the historic deck. So getting something that gives trample, I think, would be really helpful to this deck. Cool. Okay. Okay. Alright. Well, that's good. It gives me another creature to play. Cool. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. 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 Okay. Terrors, huh? Alright. So, I think what we do is... Servant... Homestead Courage... 4... Proliferate... Okay. So now we hope we can sneak through. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So poison with terror. Yep. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. All right. Got there in game one, so we were quick enough. What do we do in game two? I mean, they do have a couple of things. I mean, Ice Hide Troll is okay. The problem is they exile, and that really doesn't do us much. Swarming the board might be nice. I don't think that really helps us. Maybe a couple extra feats since we can get protection. So let's put a couple extra feats in. And what do we pull out? What do we pull out, if anything? I think we pull out Groth because we don't want to be... Well, see, here's the thing. The reason why I still like Groth in this deck is you can pitch it to Raffine's Informant, which is good. Recommission it back out, and it's a really big body right off the get-go. But like late game, what you can do is you can you can sacrifice when you have a recommission later. You can just play it for 2, sacrifice whatever, like a Vorak is usually the big things that you sacrifice a Vorak that you've already played and got value out of, and then you bring the Vorak back with a recommission. But I mean, because they have sacrifice effects, I don't think I want Groth in this deck right now. So let's go with that, and hopefully the protection allows us to sneak through past their blue. We're probably gonna lose the match overall. However, it is okay-ish. This is this is shaky. I mean, it's a turn 1 nothing. I mean, okay, I put out an Iron Apprentice, big whoop, right? Pollen Bright makes it a 2/2. You know, if they kill it or I sack it or something, you know, I can move the counters over. Um, but this is where I think we would prefer to have white um, over green in this instance. Do I keep this? I mean, we could get really bad. We could get a really bad mulligan off this. Let's keep it. I mean, we're on the draw, so we've got 2 chances to see some improvement. So, all right. We can Iron Apprentice and leave Snakeskin open. We might be able to get just enough pressure early on to mess with them. So let's put that out. All right. So, my gosh. So, our guess is they're holding up Counterspell, and we'd probably rather they counterspell the Vorak. No, we don't have white mana, so they just counterspell this. Because a recommissioned Pollen Bright Druid is actually pretty decent. Okay, that's good. That's fine. We'll let that go, and then we'll attack with these and chip away at them. We'd really like to see some white mana here. Okay. There's a poison counter. We'd really like to see some white mana. Nope. Let's go get it this way. Yeah, let's do that. Let's get our white mana. Let's play this out. Let's get the flyer for a little chip damage. Okay, we get it. Do we pick up a land or do we pick up the Iron Apprentice? I think we pick up the Apprentice and we attack. Let's just keep chipping away at them. Okay, so my guess is do that. They probably have another counter spell. Oh, they don't. Wow, each opponent sacrifices a creature? Sure. Yeah. Put that there. Yeah, I think we got this pretty well in hand. I mean, they might get a dude, right? They might get a tear, but I think if they get a tear, I think we just keep staying aggressive and go after them. I mean, oh yeah, we got lots of recommissions. We're good to go. Yep, we got there. Okay, so that was green, white, proliferate working a little bit better than it did week 1. So I think it's okay against poison ish. I mean, it is quick. It does get quick enough. What we lost to was a green black value deck. So when they've got that spot removal and they can bring out their beefy dudes of their own. I don't have trample. That's where we kind of stumble if we aren't like pedal to the metal the whole way and protecting our dudes. So yeah, we got there. Some good games. Got to see some poison, Dimir poison, which scary deck. It is a scary deck. It will run over you if you do not get it handled quickly. But we didn't really feel too much pressure. I mean, they had, they got the poison stuff, but we really didn't get into range of getting 10. The corrupted wasn't too relevant because we had the snakeskin when it mattered. I don't think they had enough maybe sacrifice spells. They just didn't see them. I don't know if they have them in their board or not, but that's kind of typical of that. However, the sacrifice spells don't work as well against this deck since I can sacrifice something that has tokens and move it over, and then targeted removal helps out. So it is a very sneaky quick deck because it gets out of control really fast with all the proliferate in there. I'm still working on it. I don't know if it's the best build, but let's do a quick deck tech of what it looks like now. So it's really low to the ground. I'm not sure about the sideboard. I just honestly don't really know. I haven't been paying attention too much to the format. I'm just kind of playing what I like, and so I'm not really sure where to go on the sideboard. But at the 1-drop, the critical guy is your Iron Apprentice because it gets you going. And it's colorless, so it doesn't matter whether you get green or white early on. Thriving Roots, let me move this out of the way. Thriving Roots works as, kind of, it can be 3 lands, or it can be proliferate depending on when it comes up, which is good. Snakeskin, obviously, it's cheap, it's 1 mana, gives you a counter, gives you hexproof, which is pretty important. Gaia's Gift, also really good. That could be in there and probably should be since my deck is heavier green than it is white. But I like the protection spell a little bit better because I think it's worth it to give you that unblock ability. So if you get that later on, yeah, you're got trample and you're indestructible, but they're still going to chump block it, right? If I'm in a situation where they've got something in my way, they're still going to get in my way. And if they're down to just one color of creature, like the Dimir Terror deck, or some of the other ones that have just one color of creature, then I can just romp on through unopposed with those. And then the extra 2 Servant of the Scales just gives me a couple extra copies of the Iron Apprentice to play early and have some fun with. Homestead Courage is really good. I think I used to run 4, but I had to cut to 3. This is fine. I mean, in a pinch, you can discard it to Raffine's Informant, and then play it on the flashback. Yeah, Raffine is a really good facilitator. Puts a card in your yard, gets a counter on it, lets you get going wide. So it is a really decent card. And then Recommission, kind of the backbone of the deck. If it gets canceled, it gets canceled. But it allows you to do some really cool stuff. Like you can just grow your party really good. It leaves your opponent with some really bad choices. Like if you cast out Vorak and proliferate and you still got a 3/3 with a couple 2/2s, they don't want to kill off your 2/2s that are just going to move their tokens over to somebody else. So they kill off the Vorak, then you recommission it, and you get the proliferate bonus again. So it's just such a good card. I mean, it's just bonkers with everything in the deck being 3 or less. Groff stays in the beginning just because it is still sneaky good in this. A 2-mana 5/4 where you can sacrifice something, move a counter. You can recommission it back. The thing that I kind of like to do too that I've also played it for is like I'll play out a Vorak, and then play out Vorak on turn 3, but then on turn 4 you Groff, eat your Vorak. You make an attack. They don't want to touch the Vorak or whatever, but you Groff it after combat. Your second main phase, you Groff it, and then you recommission the Vorak back, and then build up the rest of your swarm. So I mean, it can kind of help facilitate that. Null Hunter is really good, but I just trimmed down to 3. You want to see maybe one of them, but I don't know that 4 are necessary. Maybe they are. I don't know. Pollen Bright Druid, still great value. There's a new one in the new set, was it Shadows over Innistrad Remastered, that has some proliferate synergies. People are pretty high on that. I don't think it's as good as Pollen Bright. I mean, they both have the same floor of coming in for 2 mana and giving you like a 2/2 body or a 1/1 body and putting the token somewhere else. But impact with an aggressive deck, you don't really want to be getting one counter turn after turn after turn. That really doesn't do much for a deck that needs to be quick. Now maybe there's a proliferate deck that wants to continually get counters on things and hang around. So maybe with what is it, the Daggertooth, the dinosaur that every time it deals damage it gets a 1/1 counter, or takes damage it gets a 1/1 counter, proliferates. Maybe that to facilitate counters on those things and kind of growing your board and having a long game approach that spreads counters around in a relevant way. Maybe that's something where that new one goes in. But Pollen Bright is still just kind of now it's a poor man's Vorak. It is a little cheaper, but it is just a body and a cheap proliferate effect. And it's not embarrassing coming back from the yard either. Like, you recommission a Pollen Bright, you're getting a 3/3 out of it because it's going to come back with a counter, it's going to proliferate. You're getting at bare minimum 3/3, and then if you have anything else out there with counters on it, they're going to get bigger too. So I think it's just a bigger impact card in this deck, and I don't see that changing for anything that's going to kind of be a more like swarmy build up kind of deck. And then we put Chaplain in. Test it out. I'm really liking it. Nothing costs more than 3, so it can get anything. It can get you some planes. That's why we opted with the snow package, so we can get our snow planes and then facilitate Ice Hide out of the board. Again, I don't know that it's necessary, but maybe it's okay. And then you got kind of the all-star of the Vorak. And then Jewel Thief is just a solid 3/3. You can move your tokens around pretty well. Gives you some trample and vigilance. Gives you some color fixing. Allows you to stay pretty low. Keeping this at 19 lands. Maybe the land count could be changed, but I really wanted to cram as much in there as possible and get greedy, and it seems to be okay. Feet of Resistance is in instead of Feet of Resistance is in instead of Gia's Gift. Again, effectively the same thing, giving you a counter. You miss the temporary trample, reach, and indestructible, but in trade you get protection from a color. And I think that has more application in offense, that you can just be unblockable and just come on through. I think that works out a little better. Fierce Retribution, a little removal. Don't know if it's necessary. Eyeside Troll's just there. If I'm facing like a lot of removal, I can get it out, keep something indestructible, and then eventually you can start moving tokens around onto it. Let's see, Fragmentize, I think I just threw in there to destroy something. I don't know. No, this is really thought out. Light of Hope was just a card, puts 1/1 counters on stuff, gives me life gain, gives me enchantment removal. So I mean, it's a pretty versatile sideboard card. Um, and then this for like maybe if I want to get swarmy and I'm dealing against something that comes across pretty big, like I mean, maybe it comes up against terror, but terrors are usually defensive in nature, so I don't know that it works really well. But it does give you kind of a surprise board pump. But again, I think the board is probably the weakest part of the deck. But the main deck is pretty quick. It's pretty fun. I'm glad I gave it another run because first week we had we had a pretty slow start, and I think I would have kept playing this throughout this whole season if I didn't have a bye in week 2, and that was just kind of a letdown to your first win is because of a bye. So I just kind of got into a funky mood and started playing silly decks that I immediately got punished with. I mean, they're fun decks. Rakdos Cycling is a lot of fun, and Is It Dragon's Approach is a lot of fun. And their decks you can't really play in Historic because your graveyard gets wiped out. But Explorer is a serious format. I think this is a kind of deck that's fast enough to be competitive in the format. I don't know about the more gimmicky Graveyard Matters decks that aren't getting like a lot of recursion for value because you saw, and if you watched the other matches, how if we hit the mid to late game and we weren't in striking distance, we just got steamrolled with value. We made a play mistake, and we lost with Rakdos Cycling. So they're not very forgiving. You gotta be perfect. This one you don't have to be. You can just be aggressive, which I like to do. But yeah, that's the deck. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the gameplay. Get it up there, and we'll catch you guys again.